Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Alena Luciani, a founder of Training to Excel, a strength coach and educator who reshapes the fitness industry by putting body respect, confidence, and sustainability at the center of performance. Alena's work changes diet culture, all or nothing fitness mindset, and the idea that you have to shrink yourself to succeed in the gym or in life. Alena, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
And right, let's dive into this. So with all of my guests, I do actually like to start at the beginning of their journey. So if you don't mind kind of briefly taking me back to what it was you was doing before you started up Training to Excel, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, so I have been an athlete all my life. I grew up in a very sport-focused family, and I was fortunate enough to continue excelling in sport into university. So I actually played varsity basketball while doing my kinesiology degree. And it was actually just before that, back in high school, I remember taking a kinesiology course in grade 12. And I remember that's kind of when the first bell went off of like, oh, this is really cool. Not only do you get to kind of study sport, but you also get to study how the body moves and understand things from a really deep level. And I was like, that's super cool. And that's actually what guided me to the program of kinesiology. And so I was fortunate enough to play actually 4 years of basketball at Wilfrid Laurier University and then a year of varsity lacrosse. So I was able to represent two different teams, which was really awesome. And in that time, I had started at a couple different training facilities, just working with different athletes and working with different individuals. And that's really when the gears started turning for strength and conditioning. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, this is a viable career path. And so then I really started to shape my university experience around wanting to be a strength conditioning coach and really going after different opportunities and experiences. And what I found, and a big reason why I started Training to Excel as a business, is I was finding that after I graduated from, my final season of being a high level athlete, all of a sudden you're on your own, right? Especially in a sport like basketball, a sport like lacrosse, it's a team sport. And all of a sudden I had no team around me and no support. And I thought there's got to be other athletes that feel this way. And I want to create an environment for those athletes that are maybe graduating from sport or individuals that maybe never got the opportunity to be part of a team. I wanted to be able to create that team environment and train people like athletes. So I refer to everyone as an athlete, athletes in sport, athletes in life. I still work with both. So I still work with athletes that are training for a specific competition or a specific season. And I'm also working with a lot of individuals that are athletes in life where they're training to excel at their best at work, at home, and in their life. And there's a lot of similar principles that apply to both. But ultimately, I really wanted to create that like athlete lifestyle and team environment for everyone, regardless of whether you have a jersey or not.
I love that. And I feel like you've come to the right podcast because I was a soccer player for like about 7 years
Amazing.
professionally. So I know exactly what you mean. When you leave the sport, you
Yeah.
have that where are my powers gone? Like what am I doing in my own in this world? And it's such a weird feeling because you don't necessarily miss the people around you, but it's like you look around for your backup, like for your support. And then even to
Yeah.
mention when you're classing obviously real life athletes, that is such a thing. And the mindset and the confidence you have from working out, from sports, from anything kind of physical activity seeps into your life. Your cup is full, you're
Mhm.
happy, you're very confident in yourself, you have very clear mindset, stress levels are very low. So it's just how do
Yeah.
we adapt that and like put that into the real world, which is so cool.
And
But
I also think and you kind of said it in the introduction, like I very purposely try not to talk about the shape of people's bodies or what they look like or working out to burn calories or to be a certain shape. I really, really focus on performance. And I think, that's something that athletes do, right? Like when we were training for our sport, like we had to look at it from a performance standpoint. And there's a lot of wonderful byproducts when you focus on performance. Like there's, your body composition or your energy levels, your sleep, like there's so many amazing things that come from when we take the focus off the aesthetics and put it on how we're actually moving and how we're actually performing.
Exactly that. It's like growing a business. You know, if your main focus is on earning money, you're kind of in the wrong mindset. It's like you need to be on what's my goal? Like it's to help people, it's fulfillment, it's to make sure that everyone's living their best lives. And if you're doing that with your sport, as you say, like it's to win the game, it's to move that. The rest is a byproduct. You will look good, you will feel good, you'll be healthy, but you don't have
Yeah.
to focus on that too much because it causes a lot of overwhelm otherwise because there's a lot of noise out there and a lot of people that you've got to kind of know who they're talking about and what they're not talking about. But how do you trust people? I suppose is the other half of that. But let's dive
Yeah.
into training Excel a little bit more. So, when it comes to that, who would you say like at this point is your ideal customer? Like, who do you very, very much like to work with the most? And then from there, how is it you help them, and how do you support them along their fitness journey?
I mean, I think I would have to narrow down to like my athlete in life. And in a lot of cases, my athletes in life are retired athletes in sport. So,
Gotcha.
just as I mentioned at the beginning, these are individuals that maybe I worked with when they were playing a sport, and then all of a sudden they've graduated or, they've retired from their professional career, and all of a sudden they're an adult in society and they're trying to navigate it and figure out how to continue making their movement and performance a priority while also managing all these other, pieces to our kind of like mental load as adults. So, yeah, like I said, I have kind of I actually have three avatars within my business, but athletes in sport and athletes in life for one section, and then I also have an education sector, excuse me, of my business. And that is where I actually build different courses and resources and mentorship for other strength conditioning coaches, personal trainers, and movement professionals. So, but my
Perfect.
athletes in life, I feel like those are the individuals that I see most often throughout the course of the week. And my biggest goal is to help them feel more confident and competent with their movement. Because at the end of the day, I love when they come into the gym. I love that they seek accountability from me and support from me. But ultimately, I want them to be able to step into any gym, to step onto any field, any court, any activity, and feel confident with what they're doing and provide them tools that they can actually remember and take with them beyond the four walls of the gym.
Yeah. I love that. And that is that athlete mentality, that is that we can apply this to everything. And it's just getting through that. So in terms of like what it's like to work with you then, like if I was to onboard with you now as a client, like what would that look like? What kind of makes you stand out amongst the noise a little bit?
To be honest, I think there is a lot of BS out there, and just to put it nicely. And something that this I feel like is a question that a lot of business owners get is like, what sets you apart? And
Naturally.
one of the things is like, I take my education and my experience very seriously. So I've been coaching for about 15 years. I've worked at four different universities with collegiate athletes, with professional athletes. I have a master's degree in coaching. I have, I'm certified through the National Strength Conditioning Association. And I don't say these things to be boastful, but I take a lot of pride in the time and the hours that I've spent in my education and in my experience because I want people to know that they can absolutely trust the care they get from me. And I don't think everyone in this space can necessarily say that because I think there's a lot of people that maybe put a lot of time and energy and focus on different things. And then I think the other piece to it is like, I'm always going to be true to myself. And I know authenticity is a bit of a buzzword right now, but I think when we can show up as our true selves, we invite others to do the same. And I think that's a really powerful way to build a culture. And that's something that I've always tried to do, especially on my social media channels where I have an opportunity to share a little bit more about kind of me as a coach and as a human. But I think that's something that you know, on paper, I may have similar experience or certifications to, another strength coach over here, but they're going to do it differently than I do. No one's going to do it like me, just as no one's going to do it like them, and no one's going to do it like you. And I actually think that's the superpower. And so, again, this is a question that I've gotten a lot, like kind of what sets you apart. And yeah, there are a couple distinguishing factors maybe with my education and my experience, but I also think like it's just me. Like I'm the one that
Yeah.
administers things and no one's going to do it like I do.
And that's so true. And that's such the perfect way to look at it because, as you say, it's like there's certain people that are creating that stigma at the moment in the fitness industry, especially when it comes to online. It is that like influencer culture. It's the instant success, the instant gratification, the bikini body look, and fitness isn't always about that. And it is just being authentic. As you say, the right people will find you and want to work with you because they resonate with you and they trust your process. So just being open to that is like the first key to any marketing, in my opinion. It's building relations with people you don't know.
Absolutely. And also just from like an energy output standpoint, I remember when I first started in strength conditioning, I was a young woman in a very male dominated field, and I found myself trying to mimic male coaches that I admired. And it
Mm,
was so exhausting and so energy depleting because I wasn't being true to myself. And the
yeah.
second that I took ownership of my strengths, of my skill set, of my quirks, of who I am as an individual, that's when things totally changed. And it helped me conserve so much energy because I was just being true to myself. And I honestly think that's what then allowed me to go into, the entrepreneurial world because I actually had capacity to like build something because it was I was building something that was so special and so close to me.
But also you had the confidence in yourself, which is a lot of thing that founders lack when it comes to that, is that imposter syndrome that
Mhm.
creeps in because they don't trust their authentic self. They don't trust that they're a different human being and the right human being will take that. But I do wanted to get into the nuts and bolts a little bit of the business now that we're on the topic. So when it
Yeah.
does come to like marketing, what channels or methods are you really finding most effective in like finding that right person to work with for yourself at the moment?
You know what? I have been incredibly fortunate that a lot of my business has grown through referrals and word of mouth. And that's been incredible. And it's awesome for my in-person community and for people that are kind of linked to that in-person community because these are also individuals that I work with kind of in a digital or virtual capacity as well. And then I also try to utilize, these free marketing tools we have at our fingertips. I'm most active on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I have a podcast myself. I have a website. So there's a lot of different channels. But if I'm being totally honest, I actually think that's one of the biggest challenges as an entrepreneur, especially as someone who didn't go to school for business or sales or marketing. Like I went to school for my craft. And I do find the sales and marketing to be very challenging because even so many different social media platforms continue to change so quickly. And it's like you want to stay true to yourself and you want to keep up with things and you want to be visible and you want to create a presence, but you also don't want to sell your soul to these like apps. So there's this like delicate balance, but I always try to come back to like sharing something I'm genuinely excited about and a service or a product that I am genuinely very proud of to share. And I oftentimes let that come through, whether that's in a one-on-one in-person conversation or I'm addressing my social media community.
Amazing. Again, it's just as you say, being authentic, being top of mind. Do you run any form of ads as well to like bring in traffic and make sure it's like a consistent lead flow for yourself?
So I have explored ads a little bit, but to be honest, I've been a little disappointed. So I think part of it is on me. Like part of it is not utilizing it to the best of, its
Yeah.
ability. And I also have to give myself some grace because I am a solo entrepreneur. So I am essentially doing it all behind the
Yeah.
scenes. And so there are certain things that I just tell myself, like, this is not where I want to put my energy or my money at this point in time. But it's definitely something that I want to explore in a bigger way.
Yeah, they just help with that consistency. They help with that time. You haven't got to spend loads of time. The ads just really bring in a nice lead flow so you can work more on your zone of brilliance. It's
Mhm.
a lot of time and energy sometimes, like posting, doing outreach, doing all that stuff. So it's just really nice to have that on top of everything else you're doing. And then obviously as a solopreneur as well, um, time is money. Do you know what I mean? You need to make sure you're living in
Totally.
your zone of brilliance all the time. So it's just that fine line of balance. But again, just to comment on what you said earlier as well with regards to like sales and marketing, a lot of people come into the space and it is just such a new world and it's forever changing. The psychology of
Mhm.
and just staying on top of the apps, staying on top of all the pivoting that happens, all the new nuances when it comes to keyword searches and just it's a tough world to be an entrepreneur. But
Mhm.
it's an exciting job as well, right? It's something that really fills your bones when you're doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think like as much as there are challenges, I think I just knew that coming into this journey.
Yeah.
So I don't even really see them as challenges. I feel like I view them as opportunities to learn and navigate things. And I've learned so much just by like trial and error and just by,
Mhm.
messing something up, fixing it, making it a little bit better, tweaking something here. And it's been really cool to like my business just turned 10 in November. And it's been really cool to like reflect back like, a decade ago, being like, oh my gosh, like most of the things I
Yeah.
do now, they weren't even on my radar. Like I didn't even know they existed. So I also want to give myself grace and knowing that like I'll continue to learn and I'll continue to see it as an opportunity and not so much something that will have me feeling stuck.
And again, it's just such a great outlook to have on it. It's just a learning process every time, it's just what can we learn next day, like what's new
Mhm.
today. But obviously
Exactly.
we're at the start of the unit. Oh my God, we're at the start of the new year now. So I am very intrigued to find out what your plans are for 2026. Like, so when you do think of maybe taking the next step in the business and scaling it, like what is that goal? What is that vision in your mind that you have for yourself?
Yeah, so within Training to Excel, I have a lot of offerings. I'm very aware of that, and I think it's because I'm a multi-passionate person. But something that I've really tried to get clear on moving into this year is getting a lot of clarity on what my key offerings are, and that's where I'm putting my focus. And it's not to say some of these other things, like other projects and stuff, it's not that I'm not going to do them. I'm going to like find the time for them. But when it comes to prioritizing what's most important and what's also going to help scale and grow my business, I've really narrowed down these, to three different offerings that not only am I super excited about and I feel really proud of, and I think the quality is, it's a very high quality service or product, but it's also something that, from the logistics side of things, something that I can very much scale and something that
Yeah.
will allow me to grow my business to the next level without necessarily hiring a bunch of new people or designing a bunch of new things. It's like I know these three key offerings. If I can continue to kind of like
Mhm.
really, really get clear on, who they're for and how I want to get them out there, I think there's a big opportunity for growth. And I am someone that I'm like always setting goals. I'm always setting targets. I'm always like tracking things. But I think something I've slightly changed going into this year is like, I actually feel like there's like big growth ahead for Training to Excel. And I don't exactly know what that looks like. But instead of feeling scared or feeling like I'm coming from a place of like scarcity or lack, like I feel like I'm finally coming from a place of abundance and excitement of like, ooh, like I actually don't, I know something's coming up next, but I also don't know exactly what it is. And I'm not going to let that stress me out. I'm actually going to let that excite me instead.
Nice. I like that. So like use that passion to really drive you towards the goal, even though you don't know what it is. Love that.
Yes. And I
So
have
cool.
some ideas, but they're percolating, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I don't exactly know what direction, but I'm excited to see where it goes.
And I think that is so exciting. That is such an exciting prospect because even like when people set 5 year, 6 year plans, whatever it may be, like you don't know what's going to happen in that meantime. So I think it's quite nice to have an idea of what you want it to look like and then just being accepting and open to what might change along the way. That's
Absolutely.
a very exciting prospect. And I suppose like where are you finding the biggest challenge for yourself at the moment in taking the next step in the business?
I mean, I do think like even just what I mentioned before, I do think the sales and marketing tend to make me feel a little bit more stuck because it's almost like there are so many cool outlets that you could utilize, but like where specifically are my people? And am I tending to an emotional buyer, an analytical buyer, a bit of both? And it's like it's just a matter of kind of like testing things. But like I said, like I went to school to be a really good strength and conditioning coach, not necessarily a business owner. And the business owner side of things is something that I've had to learn. But like I said, I really want to approach this year in seeing those lessons as opportunities to learn and help redirect me in the way that I'm meant to go. But I also think that comes with like it's lonely. Like that's no secret, right? I love what I do. I have an amazing support system around me, an amazing community of in-person individuals that I see very regularly. But at the end of the day, it's like me in this office and orchestrating things and organizing things. So I do think that sense of loneliness is can be challenging, but also I've come to embrace it in different ways. And also I've kind of sought out different communities and different individuals that I can connect with that kind of help things feel a little less lonely in the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I suppose would it ever like be on the cards for you to grow your team as well, just so you do have other people around you?
Yeah, I have definitely thought of that. Again, it's just like it's something that I want to really, really think through. Like, what is the best way to scale training to excel? Is that hiring more coaches? And that's actually something I'm like kind of in the process of exploring right now. So it's definitely coming down the pipeline, but I don't know if I necessarily see myself hiring a team of 20, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's not necessarily the goal for me right now. But again, I also want to be open to things changing and my mind changing as well.
Yeah, but and that's it, just the openness. And I think keeping a nice slimline team is always great at the start and then just seeing where things go. Just because as you say, you want to be in your zone of brilliance, even if you can get people on to help with the sales, bring on another coach so you can open up your calendar a little bit more. It does just alleviate
Yeah.
a little bit of pressure from yourself.
Yeah.
But that's it. I have one final question to ask you. So if you could go back in time to a younger self and you could only leave yourself with one piece of advice moving forward, something you know now, but that you didn't know back then, what would you say to yourself?
So one of my favorite quotes that I often share with individuals, because I think of myself at this, earlier stage in strength conditioning in the entrepreneurial world, is like, if there's not a door open, like, you know how everyone's like, oh, when one door opens or when one door closes, another one opens. It's like, if the door is closed and you think that door is meant for you, break it down. Like, kick down the door. I just think like we're so often, especially as women, it's like we're told that it's like, oh, well, like if this opportunity wasn't meant for you, like go somewhere else. And yeah, sometimes it's a redirection. Sometimes it is leading you down a different path, but sometimes it's like that door closed for the wrong reasons. And so I'm going to
Yeah.
try a different key or I'm going to use a little bit of force to get it open. And I
Yeah.
think, like in my case, there were a lot of experiences I had where I had to take a little bit more initiative to like prove myself and prove that like this was where I was meant to be. And, I was worthy of this experience or this position. And I think it just taught me a lot of grit that it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like if you feel like it's meant for you, like keep going. And if I were to kind of look back at my like much younger self, I think I've always had a bit of a delusional belief in myself. Like
Yeah.
even when I was like a kid and I would tell my younger self like continue to trust that. Like never
Yeah.
lose that. Like never lose that little spark that's like I believe in you and I know I can make this happen.
I love that. Just like that is such a good piece of advice to anyone that's listening. And also like as a part of that as well, do you feel like being so like for so long in such a male dominated field, which is fitness, like sport fitness is a very male dominated field. It kind of gives you that grit and the resilience to just prove people wrong all the time and spurs you on to break that door down when people shut it in your face, right? Yeah.
For sure. I also grew up with two older brothers, so I feel like
There
I've
you
always just
go.
had to like my brothers are
Like
amazing
I'm
and so
here.
supportive, but it's like, I always had to like earn my keep. Like I always had
Yeah,
to like earn my spot on,
literally.
the basketball court or like the
Yeah.
games we were playing. So I feel like it was kind of natural for me to move into a more like male dominated space. I kind of like the challenge of being like, no, I'm going to show you that I have a place here, but that definitely made me more gritty in the pursuit.
Awesome. I love that. And such a good mindset. But thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out best to work with you or connect with you if they would like to do so?
I think the best place to go is my website, which is www.training, the number two, and the letters xl.com. I'm also very active in social on Instagram. So my Instagram is at training to excel, spelt the same way. And I always like to say I have an open door policy. So if anyone listening has any questions or want to chat, please feel free to reach out. My email is connected to both my website and my Instagram, so you can also reach out there.
There you go, beautiful. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from zero to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing, and we will see you on the next one.